Time now for All Things Gators, All Things Orange and Blue. Dan Hicken, Frank Frangie. Hick, tough weekend, my man.
Yes. First, let me get some of the particulars out of the way. Thank you to Southeast Orthopedic Specialists for bringing you this wonderful podcast, although they may want to rethink it after today. se-ortho.com for all your orthopedic needs in the First Coast area. I blame you.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah,
Didn't you pick them though to win?
I picked them because they're my team.
I'm just saying.
I blame you because for a month I've had to hear you're one of those guys. Oh, I'm telling you, look, Billy Napier, he's ticked. He's got things going on. He's going to be just fine. And you and Shane, and I'm miffed. That's what I am.
I did the math. Okay, I pulled out my calculator. 50% of this podcast picked it right, 50% got it wrong. Okay, it's a math. I'm a math guy, Dan. If you know that or not, I do a lot of math in my day. Math background, actually. Yeah. What that is.
It's not who got it right and who got it wrong. It's who got it right. I don't want to say this. It's the way they lost, Frank.
Right.
And it's not the kid's fault. It's not execution. It was dumbassery from the coaching staff, which shouldn't happen in year two, because I just watched a guy go to a hostile top 20 environment with 86 new guys, and they didn't line up offsides or jump or ran a 2-minute drill effectively, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, really, the storyline is, I hear you, they look really poorly coached.
It was disappointing, man.
And for the first time, and I said this on my show, and you probably did on yours as well, Dan, for the first time, the aspect of, is he not a good coach, has been introduced. It was never introduced last year.
Right.
Last year, it was Anthony Richardson can't read defenses, and he's too erratic, and he inherited too many bad players from Mullen, and he's going to recruit all the good players. And never introduced, at no point last year was the possibility introduced that they're not well coached.
Right.
Well, I agree with you. They did not look well coached. The two number threes is inexcusable, obviously. All the false starts, if the one guy keeps false starting, put in the other guy, So, there's no, and listen, I still think you got to be careful not to overreact. It's one game.
I agree.
Coach 14 games.
And I don't think either of us are calling for the
of course,
the
not.
buyout, and it's going to be a long year. And again, it's listen, Mike Norvell was awful for 2 years. And he got players and he gets better. So, I mean, I get it. But there's one thing I'll let you finish your thought. And then I want to tell you what bothers me more than anything.
No, you're dead on. They look poorly coached.
Yeah.
And I'm a Napier guy. I really am. I think they're going to be good under him. I think he's going to get players. But I hear you. And I kind of, in yesterday's presser, listen, we are who we are, and he's culture and respect. But yesterday's presser, I didn't want to hear it starts with me and accountability and respect, and I wanted more specifics. We screwed up that number 3 thing because we should have sent in. I did a bad job calling plays there. We should have gotten the plays off faster.
Yeah.
Yesterday's presser, I wanted to get away from the accountability and motivation and respect, and I wanted to get into some specifics of what we did wrong. So I like the guy. I'm still on board. But yeah, I'm with you, Dan. It was a disappointing start on every front.
There's no way he's gonna. They're not going to be demands for a new for an offensive coordinator. It's clearly too much for him. That's obvious. Okay. The most frustrating thing for me is here they are down 24-11, Frank. There's 5:47 to go. The kid misses a field goal for Utah. Florida gets a ball on its 37-yard line, knowing they need 2 scores. So if there's 5:47 to go, and college football's quicker now because of the clock, you have to score. You have your timeouts. You have to score legitimately with 2.5 at the latest, possibly 3 minutes. You have to be in hurry up.
Right.
And they're not capable of it. And that is mind-blowing to me because I watched it last year. And I'm watching Florida substitute guys. So the ref stands there and waits while Utah substitutes, while tick, 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 tick. I watch Graham Mertz go to the line of scrimmage, Frank, and I watch the clap, clap, arm down, clap, clap. It blows me away that they cannot run a 2-minute offense. And frankly, The offense, if you count the bowl game last year, which I do, it's 14 points in 2 games. That's horrific.
And back to the first point you made, that's what's got to get. We all were screaming at the TV. There's the tight ends.
4 minutes to go, 30 yards, Frank.
And the clapping and by the way, let me throw in the play fakes. If you're down 2 scores, if you're down 2 scores with 2.5 minutes, they're probably not going to bite on the play fake.
Yeah.
So that's the boss. So now that's been
probably not going to bite on the play fake.
Right. Right. Yeah. But they're play faking, boy.
Yeah.
So that's where we are.
Yeah.
And what he's got to do. So even the win big because the team is not very good this week, McNeese, but we have to all watch and see, is that different? Do they play faster? Is there some tempo? I almost think this. Tell me if you agree with this. I almost think part of football isn't being so organized in systems. And I mean, listen, let me tell you something crazy. It's totally off this an aside, but can you be too organized? They announced, and you're not a uniform guy. I'm a uniform guy, okay? They announced again a week and a half ago the uniform combinations for the whole season, okay? Right. This combination isn't about uniform, but stay with me. Sometimes you don't want to be so detailed and so buttoned up and so organized that you announce it for the whole season. Sometimes a uniform's your gut. Sometimes your captain walks in on Thursday and says, Coach, we're wearing all orange because we played LSU and beat them in all orange. And so, you know what I mean? There's gut feel. Let's get away from systems. And I think the offense is the same way. I think sometimes tear up your script. My gut says we're going to go hurry up. We're going to play Eugene Wilson in 4, 1, 4, and 3. And we're going to go vertical, go. And I just think they're so buttoned up and so attentive to detail and so organized that, well, that's not our system. And the play fakes the system. I don't know if he's got feel. Sometimes away from building the system and being the CEO and being buttoned up, you just have to have a gut and a feel. And that's what I don't know if Billy Napier has.
Now, I thought some young kids played hard. I thought the team played hard. They didn't quit. There's a positive that I want to throw your way. I can't tell you, though, the disappointment I felt. I just look like halftime adjustments is another thing. I mean, I could go on and on. Listen, if we can't get the number 3 thing right, and like you said, just say, hey, here's what happened. But if we can't, how about this? We got 99 numbers, Frank. We're not dressing 99 kids. Sorry, you don't get your number. Pick a different one. We're too dumb to handle this, so we can't do it.
But then here's what happens. The kid that wants to wear number 2 goes to Georgia because Georgia's going to have 3 number 2s.
Yeah,
so you have to issue them. Yeah. You just have to. But back to and by the way, there were a lot of good that came out of the game.
Yeah.
I think they're much improved defensively. I think there's going to be a tough they tackle. They're not lost in space defensively. In an era of an offensive game, this is an offensive era. They're probably going to be bigger defensively. They tackle defensively. They've got if they'll play 1, 3, and 4. I'm glad Khalil Jackson had a good camp, and I'm glad 88 from Jacksonville had a good camp. But 1, 3, and 4, they're guys. Yeah. They got to play Pearsall and Trey and Douglas, and that's their guys. You know, I'll tell you what, old guys look at old times because that's we're old. Dan, you're old. I'm old. But the ball coach played Ike Riedel and Quez. Okay, he wasn't playing Nafis and all the guys that he played Ike Riedel and Quez until he got up 45-3 at the half, and then he changed it up. You know, play your guys and throw the ball down the field. I think it's there, don't you? I mean, I got to tell you what. I mean, number 3 is pretty good now.
Yeah,
I mean, number 3 is pretty good.
He can scoot. That was nice to see. You know what? I saw a troubling statistic, and this shocked me because I thought Graham Mertz, you know, in a game where most of us didn't know about Graham Mertz and would have thought, well, Graham Mertz is going to be a problem. He was the least of our problems. I thought he played well. Would you say he played well?
Right. Absolutely. 100%.
So, Frank,
100%.
What if I told you that of the 14 SEC quarterbacks, he had the worst QBR of any of them after 1 week?
I wouldn't know.
Any of them.
I didn't know. Is that right?
I saw it. It was 30.4. It was stunning to me. So
then I'm not smart enough to know what that means.
Me either. I don't get it because my eyes told me he played fine. He played well. Listen. The O-line was not good.
The O-line's a real concern.
Yeah.
Dan Mertz is what he is.
Yeah.
He's accurate. He doesn't have a big arm. He's not big and physical, and he's not very fast.
Yeah.
But as far as taking the snap and getting the ball out and throwing to the. Now he had one stretch there where he missed 4 or 5 in a row. The ball's behind this guy, but for the most part, I agree with you. I'm surprised. The only thing I'm thinking is yards per attempt is a big thing these days.
Yeah, it was low.
It was way low because they don't press down the field. Part of that, he doesn't have time to get the ball out.
Right.
You know, so yards per attempt is a function of line as much as it is quarterback. And the biggest, I think he's okay. The running backs, are pretty good. If they play 1, 3, and 4, at least they've got pretty good receivers. I like what the defense is. I do worry about the offensive line. I know when Guakin comes back and makes them better. Oh boy, Dan, they got mauled by that Utah defensive front.
Damian George had a real tough debut. To go back to your organization question, I'll put another word in there, and I don't know if this is the right word, but it's like an analytics thing with Napier, like the 4th and 3 play call, the pass up the middle, the 4th and 14 slip screen. And I know part of the reason for that pass is because they're rushing and we can't block them. So what am I supposed to do? You could answer it that way, I suppose, but there's no way we're going to hit a 4th and 14 slip screen to a receiver and he's going to get 14 yards.
Right.
So I don't know if that's, the percentages tell me that this was the play. Like that kind of goes into we're too organized, we study too much. Sometimes gut tells me what to do, maybe.
Yeah, and by the way, the shovel pass is a great cutesy play.
Yeah.
When you're beating them down the field and they're backing up. Well, you got to beat them down the field a few times before they back up, which makes the shovel pass go. They had the line crowded. I can tell you that.
Right.
When you got 8 in the box and they're all coming, shovel pass isn't going to work. And so I don't know that he's got that knack. Some guys are organized, detailed, planning. They work hard. He's a good guy, so the culture's good. They play hard for him.
Right.
But you got to have that. The great coaches have a knack, or they bring in the guy with the knack. Jimbo Fisher is a pretty good play caller, but he finally realized he had to go bring in Bob Petrino this year, and I'll bet they'll be better. Mm-hmm. Nick Saban and Kirby Smart are really good defensive coordinators, but they went and hired defensive coordinators, so they had someone that could focus just on that. You said this at the top of the podcast, Dan. That's going to be the storyline. Yeah. The storyline is going to be, does he relent? It won't be this year. You can't just go get a guy.
Right.
But as he moves forward, does he relent and call play? So what do you look for this week? You can't control last week. It's over.
Frank, I've got a number for you I've brought here to the program, to the podcast that I need you to comment on. We're playing a McNeese State football team.
Yes.
They opened with Tarleton State, Frank.
That's right. Yeah.
And Tarleton hung 52 on them.
Yeah.
Would it be considered a disaster if we don't hang 70 on them then? I mean, and I hate beating up on somebody, but this is a game where, the stadium's not going to be packed. It's not going to, it's the opener, which is a shame. But if people they're waiting for Tennessee, and you just need to get a feel-good win, man. You need to get a feel-good win, and you need to highlight some of your guys, and you need to break away a little bit from what you did last week and get that taste out of your mouth and take care of business. And quite honestly, I'm not a big look-ahead guy, but if I was Billy Napier, I would be thinking about Tennessee a whole lot this week too.
Yeah. Here's the significance of the relevance of the team that McNeese just lost to.
Yeah.
I don't even think you're saying it right, but I don't know well enough to know if you're not saying it right.
That's fair.
Tarleton, and whoever they were. Okay.
Yeah, Tarleton.
Whoever they are.
I don't know where they are.
But you're right, because when it started to leak a little bit last year. Look, the Utah win was this great win. It was a great win last year. But then they played USF, who's terrible, and probably should have lost.
Yes.
Okay. So it was important to impress, and you got to impress when you play the bad teams too.
Yeah.
Dan, if they win this week 31-27, then
God,
it's going to be a disaster.
Yeah.
McNeese is no good.
Right.
So but I need Eugene Wilson, Trey Wilson to catch about 8 balls.
Yes.
And I need Tennessee to be worrying about him.
Yes.
You really do need. You say style points don't matter. Well, now they do.
Yeah.
This needs to be 56-6, and it has to feel like
you probably need to feed the running backs some this week and let them put on a show too. I mean, they didn't get many touches, nor could they run the ball effectively. They need to work on that. It's just there's a bunch of things, obviously, that left a bad taste in all our mouths. There's a long football season ahead of us. I'm not optimistic overly, but let's just focus in on Saturday night at the Swamp, getting a W and winning a game.
Let me close with this because I'm passionate about this.
Okay.
The last thing we need is to keep running off coaches. And I know people on social media get mad and we're all mad and it looked awful. They looked poorly coached. But the one thing I'll say this, I'll pound the pulpit on this. That's why I tweeted out the fact that Norvell started 8-13 over there.
I know.
And frankly, would have been 8-15 with 2 butt whippings if they'd have played Clemson
and if
Florida
you left it up to the fans, he would have been gone.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. But what Florida needs, just do enough to A, calm the fans down. This isn't the year. And B, keep that recruiting class together. Because I can tell you this, I'm now watching TJ Searcy and Kelby Collins and Trey Wilson and Shamar James. And the guys he's bringing in are good players. He's good at that part because you could see the guys that he brought in are good players. We just need to keep angry guy off social so you don't chase off the next good players that are coming. Well, that's the most critical thing.
I'm angry guy too. And again, I'm not saying get rid of them at all, but I will tell you this, and I will say this, and I knew this and you knew this, and we can plead all we want for patience.
Right.
Sunday night, I was with 45 Gator fans in my age bracket.
Okay.
It was 44-1 if they could have paid off $31 million and made a change.
I know.
The patience does not go well with Gator fan. It doesn't. It never will. It's the way we are. And you're just going to have to put blinders on and deal with it. But it is a frustrating thing.
I know.
Shout out to the volleyball team. Maybe Natty Worthy this year. Keep an eye on them. They beat number 2 Stanford, number 5 Minnesota. I'm excited about volleyball. It could be a T-shirt kind of season for them.
You're a T-shirt guy. Let's go get a big win over McNeese, and we got a lot to talk about when the Vols come in. That's All Things Gators. Dan Hicken and Frank Frangie.
All right, Frank, and thank you, Southeast Orthopedic Specialists, se-ortho.com, for all your orthopedic needs in the Jacksonville area. Frank, let's do better next week, okay?
We will. See you, Hick.
See you, buddy.